All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. This is the Get There Connect Network Manager training. I think most of you know me, but my name is Sydney Cape, and I am a network administrator with Get There Connect. If you received this invite, it's because you manage at least one network in Get There Connect. So we sent it to everyone who manages at least one, but some of you I know manage way more than that. So for today, we haven't really done a formal training like this to invite all network managers, but we thought that this would be just a good way to introduce Get There Connect for those who are newer to it, but also just kind of go over some tips and tricks for those who are more accustomed. I think there's always little things that pop up that maybe you don't know about that can help you manage your network. So we're going to talk a little bit about Get There Network Manager capabilities, and then pretty much just jump straight into some demos. So I'll just hop over to Get There Connect, and I'll give you a tour of the management dashboard. And then, so we'll talk about different things within that, including reporting and, adding sub networks, stuff like that. And then I thought it would be helpful to talk about, first of all, the difference between incentive programs, point programs, and challenges, which you all have the capabilities of creating. And then I'll do a demonstration of how to set one of those up because they're all fairly similar. So here's the agenda today. I just kind of mentioned this, but we'll spend 20 minutes on the dashboard tour, 20 minutes on challenges, incentives, and point programs. And then there should be 20 minutes at the end so anyone can ask questions. I also welcome you to ask questions throughout if I'm going over something and you have a really specific question related to that, feel free to chime in. Anna's here for most of the meeting, and Kelly, if you don't mind, could also keep an eye on the chat. But otherwise, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up. And then I just wanted to start by noting that, as I mentioned, this invite went to everyone who manages at least one network, but there is some variation between capabilities among our statewide partners who are considered to be advanced network managers. And then if you don't fall in that category, you're just considered to be a network manager. There's a lot of overlap in capabilities, but if something looks a little bit different than what you're used to seeing, it's probably because you're an advanced network manager, and I'm going to be doing this from the lens of a network manager. So, and if you have any questions specific to that, just let me know. Okay, so I'm going to hop over to Get There Connect, share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see Get There Connect dashboard? Great. Okay, so I'm gonna give this tour from, this is, I guess, kind of one of my test or like personal accounts where I am just a network manager, so it should look the same to you. So everyone here should, this is just the dashboard, so I'm already logged in, you can see my name here. And everyone should have a manage button. So this is where we access the management dashboard, which gives you access to everything as a network manager. So over here we have programs, where this is what we'll touch on later, setting up challenges, incentives, and point programs. But for the purpose of this first portion of the meeting, I want to talk all about the management dashboard. So if you click into that, so I have this set up to where I'm just managing one network, and that network is Alta Planning and Design. So this is when you first click into it, you have this initial view of your single network, or if you manage multiple, then they will all show up on the screen and you can search for different ones. So that even includes sub networks, which we'll talk about in detail later. But I just wanted to note that on this card, you can, if you have multiple networks, you can press this star and it will keep it at the top so that you can have easy access. Because I know that, I believe it just sorts it in alphabetical order, but if that's not like your primary network, then it's kind of a pain to have to scroll down to your main network. So again, I just have this one, so I'm going to go ahead and click into here. And so this, when you first click on it, you just are taken to the network stats page, network information, and it is a snapshot of your network. I find this really helpful for just pulling quick numbers or stats or just kind of checking out the network activity. So we can see that there are 47 members of the Alta network. We can see that it is the sub network of these different parent networks, which is typically happens automatically depending on the zip code. There are 2 managers. And then if you come down here, you can get a snapshot of network statistics, and you can change the date range. They have some presets here, and you can do a custom range, but I'm just going to do all time for the purposes of showing you how cool this can look when you have a lot of different modes that are being used or trips that are being logged. So these are the total stats for Alta Planning and Design all time. We get just some metrics here, but then this chart breaks it down by mode, and you can, the outer ring is number of trips, the inner ring is mileage. So that's just kind of cool to see what your network is doing. Also, when just on the network home drop down, there's an edit button. So this is when your network was set up, probably by me. I put in a name based on the information. And sorry, just a reminder to mute yourself if you're not asking a question. We have some background noise. So anyways, and this is also where you can access your shareable join URL. So this is what you can share with others to ask them to join your network. Can you see my other tab now? Yes, okay. So I'm just showing you what this looks like. So if I were to share my join URL, you would be taken to this network specific page where then someone could just click join, and then they can either create an account or log in. So that's what that is. So you as a network manager have the ability to change the name of your network. You can also change the join URL, so you can customize this back half here. We also have the ability to set up a redirect through gettthereoregon.org. So if you wanted a URL that doesn't have kind of the more complicated .right amigos part, then you can reach out to us or me, info@gettthereoregon.org, and I can set you up with a custom URL that would be gettthereoregon.org/whatever you want. You can go in here and edit a description. You can do auto join by email domain. I do want to guard against this a little bit. We don't typically recommend doing it unless you are a network manager of a small location specific organization. But we've run into some issues where, for example, if you manage the network Kaiser, then if people go ahead and do the email domain that for Kaiser, then all of the different Kaiser networks that we have, that the ones that are in Medford and Portland and Salem, that will muddy the network waters, because anyone with that URL will be placed into all of those networks as opposed to the specific site. So if it's a big organization like Kaiser, I don't recommend doing that. You can add your location and even some custom messaging for when people do join the network. So that's kind of just the basic network setup and editing. Let's jump over here, just moving down the list on the left-hand side. And also, if you have multiple networks in this dropdown, you can search them and jump between them and stay on this page, which is nice. So jumping over to members here, this is, you can't do a lot with this members menu option, but it's more just a snapshot of the people that are in your network. And then it's good for seeing activity because you can check out their last login date, when they created their account. So you can also filter all these. And if you wanted to see everyone who created an account in 2022, you could do last year or a custom date range. And then seeing when people have updated their account, also just a way to get some insight into how active your members are. And similarly, you would be able to see if people haven't logged in 2 years, and then maybe consider doing a custom targeted email to them and try to get them to re-engage. So there are some good options for just kind of understanding how your users are interacting with it. You can take a look at your member details. I'll just go ahead and do that for my other account here. So this is cool. You can see my name, my email, or the user's name, the user email, how many networks I'm in, my trip log metrics. So another way of just seeing activity. And then if I wanted to remove a member, so I could probably find someone in here on the Alta list that no longer works at Alta, and I would just remove them. Here's one. Remove them from the network, just like that. So that doesn't remove them from Get There Connect, but it just removes them from the network. Okay, and there's a lot more that you can do in the report, the member report, so we'll touch on that in just a minute. Subnetworks. So I think a lot of network managers don't realize that you don't have the ability to create the network from the beginning, but you do have the ability to create any subnetworks that you want. So once you have your parent network, the one that I set up, you now have access to adding a subnetwork. So you can see in this account, this network, we don't have any subnetworks, but it would be super easy for me to create one with that blue plus sign there. And if I wanted to do something like Alta planning and design, human resources, so say we have a big human resources department and we're doing a network-wide challenge and we're going to divide everyone based on their department, I could create subnetworks like this. See, there's even an option here for listing it as a department. So I'll go ahead and click that. And that's all the information you need to create a subnetwork. So I could go ahead and press save changes at this point, or I could go in and add more details about that subnetwork. But just for this example, I'm gonna save changes. I'll probably need to refresh for that to show up, but the idea there is that now we would be able to access the subnetwork, but I think it might require logging out and back in for it to show, or just a little bit of time. And I see a raised hand from Brian.
Yeah, I was just wondering the difference between the public and private in there. You had the selection of public and private. If you're
Yeah,
creating a sub network, wouldn't it still be within the main network that you made it?
yes. So it would be, so that's a great question. Let me kind of start from the beginning. So when I set up networks, so the parent networks for you all, unless you tell me otherwise, I'm going to set it up as a public network because that allows Get There users to search for it and join it on their own. Whereas if I were to set it up as private, they could only join using that join URL that I talked about earlier. So within your assumed public parent network, you could create a private network, a private sub network. And that could be for a variety of reasons. I know that we have some partners who have like a separate kind of special incentive program that maybe only applies to a subset of their network. So say like within a regional network, only people who work for, I keep saying Kaiser for some reason, but Kaiser are able to get this incentive. So that's an example where maybe you would want that to be a private network so that only the people you invite can join and then access said incentive.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna move on here to managers. As you can see, there's my human resources. So it was now created. I didn't even realize that it jumped me over to that. So here's a good example now. I'm in the human resources subnetwork, but I can jump back right here to the Alta Planning Design parent network. And then when I go here, it now shows up. Okay, moving on to managers. So both my accounts are a manager of this. I can add, since I'm a manager, I can add other colleagues as a manager if I wanted. So anyone who's in the Alta Planning sub or parent network, I could add as a manager to assist me. And I can also remove managers as well. Jordan.
Yeah, I had a question about the branding of subnetworks. Does that automatically take the branding of the parent network, or do you have to set that up specifically?
It will automatically, I think you're talking about like this part.
Yeah.
Yeah, so any network that's set up will default to Get There Connect. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, I think that if your parent network if you've uploaded a parent network logo, then I think it will default that to your sub networks. I'm
Okay.
not 100% sure, but just based on this, because the Alta Planning Network just used the Get There Connect logo, I believe. And then when I set that up, it defaulted to that. So yeah, I think you would have to go in and you would have to manually change the logo if you wanted it to be something different.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sydney, a question
Yeah.
on that one. Thinking of the branding. So you've got your parent network, let's say it's Portland Public Schools, and then you have all of these schools under Portland Public Schools that have different names. So you could sub-brand in a sense that way, where you still kind of keep, PBS, and then you go on and say XYZ school. Am I right in thinking that's how you can structure the whole system of your sub networks?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, assuming where am I? The logo that you would upload, I assume for a PPS school would just be the school's name and logo, but it would be, so you wouldn't necessarily see PPS in the branding, but if you set the school up to be, kind of like I did here, where first I've listed the organization and then the department, you could do that. So it could be like PPS Grant High School or something. And then you could have the school specific logo. So there's definitely different ways to organize it on the sub network level.
And then you can see the metrics for the entire network plus each individual subnetwork.
That's correct. Yep.
Thanks.
Yep. So just the same with the toggling here. I can toggle, or on that first page I started with, I could search for a specific subnetwork and I would still get the snapshot of that specific subnetwork. So here, I just set this up a minute ago, so obviously there are no stats, but yeah, it's great because you can see overall and for each subnetwork.
Sydney, we have a question from Brian Nelson with Peace Health. He asks, where does our staff see our branding when we upload that? I believe he means the logos.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, please chime in.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. That's a good question. I'm actually not 100% sure. I think that there's a chance. I'll confirm this for you and get back to you, but I think that it probably shows up in the network join page. And then I think with the custom messaging that you can set up, I think it would show up there as well. But I want to double check that because I know that there are like add-ons with Right Amigos where it can show up in more places. So that's a great question. And I'm sure someone on my team will write that down for me. Okay, so I just wanted to briefly touch on surveys. Oh, let me go back to the main network. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I did want to just acknowledge, and I have this old draft in here, so you can ignore that, but that there is a survey function that network managers have access to, and that it's built into Right Amigos. You can send it directly to your network. So if you're curious about their trip behavior, for example, we actually have a few templates that already exist in here. So like the ODOT commuter survey, which is basically a trip diary survey. But then there's also just the free form survey where you can edit, similar to other survey tools, just a little bit less fancy, I think. But if you've used SurveyMonkey, you can, adjust the types of questions that you're adding so that you can do like the radio buttons or open-ended, etc. And just kind of build it as you want. And then you have the option to preview it and then open it up and send it out to your get their users. So again, I think we could spend a whole topic on that. And so I'm gonna, if there's interest, then I'd be happy to do another session. But for this kind of overview session today, I think we'll just move on to reports, which is the most useful part of Get There Connect or the management dashboard, in my opinion. So if you click over here on reports, it expands a bunch of different options, but the user report is my go-to because it pretty much includes everything. It's just a really awesome tool where right now it defaults to just showing you email, first name, last name, alternative trips, and miles. But if you click this drop down here, you can filter the columns and you have endless columns that you can add. So just some examples here, kind of like the user or the member report that I showed you earlier, last login date. You can see if they happen to manage other networks. You can filter their zip code. You can do dollar savings, CO2 savings. You can do carpool messages sent. So you can see if your users are reaching out about carpool options. Just everything. You can see if they've, planned a trip using the app. So it's a really, really nice tool to pull more detailed reports. And over here, there's this report actions button where you can actually export this to Excel, which I'll often do just because it's easier to work from Excel and, add up totals and stuff than it is in here. So yeah, I use the user report all the time. And you can also change the date range. So if you just want a snapshot of certain metrics for the past year or the past month, you can filter that. You can also filter individual columns. So if you click the created column, I could filter when people created an account in a certain period of time. So really, really useful. There's also subnetwork reports. Similar, if you have a lot of subnetworks, this is also really great because you can do a lot of the same filtering of the columns. And if you want to just compare all of your different networks that are participating, it's nice to see, oh, the human resources department is logging, they've logged 100 trips, whereas the planning department has logged 50. Just kind of do some comparisons there. Trip logs. These are really detailed reports. You can actually take a look at specific trips that people have logged, what mode, how many miles, and the exact time. These are showing from 2019, but can filter for last year. So that's kind of more, I think, if you're maybe troubleshooting with someone, providing support, they have a question about a certain trip log, then you can kind of take a close look that way. I'm going to go through the rest of these quickly so that we can move on. But trip plans, so you can see which trips people have actually put into the trip planner. And this could be a cool way to help facilitate carpools, for example, just to be like, oh, looks like we have people coming from here and here. And if maybe they're not able to facilitate carpools on their own for whatever reason, this could be a good like in-person exercise that maybe you offer. So that's cool. This carpools report, this one's a little bit misleading because it doesn't reflect all of the carpools that are being organized. This is just if people actually take another step of like adding their carpool to get their connect. You can actually go in and like kind of register it and say, I have this carpool. These are the people that I carpool with. This is the name of it. A lot of people don't take that extra step, so you're not likely to see any information here, but it does exist. And then achievements is the last one, which there are some built-in achievements with Bright Amigos. Like if people have logged, 100 trips, then maybe they have some sort of special achievement that you can look at as well. So I knew I blew through the reporting part, but I just want to reiterate that the user report is super, super useful. And I recommend just kind of playing around with it and reaching back out if you have any questions. So I'm going to hop back over to my presentation. Just confirming if I can get a head nod that you see my slides again. I'm looking at you, Kelly. Can you see my slides? Okay. Okay, so jumping to challenges, incentives, and point programs. So I put together this table that because I myself have trouble communicating which one you should use at what time. So I still don't know if I have like the perfect answer to that, but I thought that comparing all three would maybe help you come to some conclusions as if you have interest in setting up a program. This can help inform which one is best for your use case. So challenge, the description, challenges are a mechanism to engage your users in a friendly competition with their peers. Incentive programs offer a resource or reward offered to users for performing a specific transportation-related act. And then point programs offer points that users can earn for performing a specific transportation-related act. which in most cases, they then can redeem for incentives. So some features that that are different between each of these things. I think challenge is different than incentive and point programs. It's the most obviously different in my mind. So this is a set period of time that you are encouraging your users to do specific, again, transportation related acts, but it's within a set period of time, and it often is fostering that competition component. It pulls in leaderboards, and then of course you can also tie in incentives. That's the best way to get people to participate. But I think that's the biggest difference, is it's people competing against each other. Incentive program. So this is, I like to think of this as something where users accomplish a very specific goal, and then it's just done once they've achieved that goal. So, or it starts over. So for example, maybe they log 10 trips, that's just the bar, and then they're offered a single reward option that they can redeem, and then they get that. And then the incentive program either starts over or it's no longer available to that person. And then I would say probably our most popular is the point program. So this typically offers multiple reward options, and it's nice because you can incentivize certain modes differently. For example, you could say that biking's worth twice as much as carpooling, or maybe remote work, it isn't worth as much. So there's more flexibility there. And then you offer, oh yeah, I didn't mention this, but for the incentive program, you can require users to opt in, whereas the point program, you offer it to a specific network. So that'll make more sense when I'm setting one up, which I will jump to right now unless there are any questions. Okay, so just going back to, I'll just go back to my dashboard here. So I'm now out of the management dashboard and just in my user dashboard. But I can go over here and access challenges, incentives, and point programs. I'll go ahead and do a sample. Again, a lot of the backend setup is really similar among these three, but I'm going to start with the point program because I think it's the most commonly used. So sorry, I maybe did that kind of fast, but I'm in the point programs. You can take a look at upcoming ones if you have them set up, past or all. I'm in current, none are offered currently, but I'm going to set up a test one right now. So I'm still in the Alta network, so I'll just do test Alta point program. You can have a description, so whatever your parameters are for this. Kim Curley, who's on the call, for example, she'll do 45, Kim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 45 points for a $25 gift card. And obviously you can add a lot more detail to your description, but just to get.
Sorry, I was scrambling for my buttons. It must be Monday. It's 45 points for $20 Tango gift card.
$20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kim, obviously she has a very, detailed and interesting description, but the main point is that if they get 45 points, then they're eligible for a $20 Tango gift card, and that is an ongoing offering. So again, different from the incentive program, this is ongoing, whereas the incentive, in my mind, is more of like a one-off. Then you can add a description, same description for mobile. Tags, I actually don't really know. Oh, reporting and filtering purposes. Okay, I'm not super familiar with that, but looks like you could it could then be a specific column that you filter for. Point of contact, so in this case, it'll be me. Okay, so then I can go in here and it asks me which networks are available. So let's say I'm just setting this up for the human resources department only. I can go ahead and select them. I guess for this example, I'll go ahead and offer it to the whole network. It's also nice because if it might seem weird to exclude networks, but it's actually, I think it's more common than you would think. But say, well, I'm going to use Kim as an example again. Kim has employers that are paying into her point program that helps fund the incentives, the gift cards. And so if they haven't, paid their dues, then Kim could exclude them from participating.
Well, what happens is if the HR department doesn't pay the bill and then I start getting reward requests from individuals, I mention to those individuals that their company has not paid their bill yet. And guess what? I usually get paid.
Yeah. So it's not typically a problem, like to the point where she has to exclude people, but that's just an example. Here's a better example maybe. Say I'm offering a special reward to the HR department, and so they're not eligible for this other, bigger point program. So, and then you can select if maybe other department managers, you want them to be able to edit and view the report, you can select them. Okay, so here's the fun stuff, which is trip log eligibility. So this is when you set up your parameters. So maybe I'm going to do a 3-month-long challenge. So let's just say to June here, or no, sorry, not a challenge, a point program. And then the final trip log entry cutoff dates. It's in many cases, it's nice to give your users a little bit of wiggle room for their trip logging in case they want to go back and retroactively log trips if they missed the cutoff date or something. So they could log until June 16th, for example, but only the trips that were logged before June 1st would be eligible. You can select the days of the week. So maybe I'm trying to promote, I don't know, this is all just random, but Monday and Friday commute options. You can choose specific sources. So maybe you only want people, I don't really recommend this, but you only want people to log using the app. Maybe you're doing a Right Amigos commute tracker app specific promotion. You could select that. And then you get to choose which modes are eligible. So in many cases, people aren't going to be, you press control to select multiple here, but I assume most people won't be selecting drive alone, don't really want to incentivize that, but you can select all the others. And then here's what I was talking about where you can assign different point values for each mode. So maybe bicycling can take a little bit more effort in some cases, so maybe that's worth 10 points and carpool's only worth 5 or something like that. You can set up specific trip types. So when your users log a trip, they are required to select commute, errand, recreation, or other. So if this is just for commuters, you can go ahead and select that, but you could also have it open to any trip type. Maximum number of points per day. This is definitely something you probably want to fill out so that people can't just get endless points in one day if they're logging like a few like short walks around the block or something, then those points would really add up. So for Kim's program, she just does one point per day. So, well, that wouldn't make sense for how I set this up. So I'll do 10 points per day. You can let users automatically start with points. Then there's, kind of the nitty gritty here that I won't go into detail. And then again, I think this could be a whole nother training session, but adding the rewards inventory can be kind of a complicated system depending on how you set it up. But you can also just do a manual setup where perhaps, once the users go in and request their reward, you then contact them and set it up how you want to distribute the reward. So there are automated systems where people go and select, and then they could automatically be sent like a promo code to their email, or they could be sent a voucher, a gift voucher, PDFs. There's all these different ways that you can set that up. So that's what we refer to as the digital inventory, which you can see under manage and tools. And I think that would be a great topic for a future training session.
Sydney,
So
one
I'm
question.
oh yeah.
Oh, just wondering if you can assign negative points to something like driving alone.
That's a good question. Let's see if it lets me do that. Oh, maybe. Okay. Drive alone. -10. It appears that the green box indicates that it's allowing that. I haven't filled out all this other stuff, so I can't save, but I hadn't thought of that, but I kind of like that idea. It might be a little confusing to communicate to people, but it appears that it might be possible. I can test that for sure once I set up this other stuff, but that's an interesting concept.
I was half joking, but I think it could be fun.
For sure.
Who's gonna log their negative trip?
Yeah, I mean, because people definitely log their drive alone trips and get their connect. So I like the penalty. Okay, so I think that I can pause there. I will go ahead and stop my share, but if I need to share again to walk through something, then I can. But I think we have this remaining 15 minutes for any other questions. And then maybe in addition to that, if there's something that a particular topic that you would like covered in a future training, you can also feel free to share that here, and we can make that happen.
I believe Jordan has a question.
Oh, Jordan, yeah.
Hi, Sydney. I don't want to take up all your time because I know other people are going to have questions. But West Side Transportation Alliance is working with the local city government to set up a pilot micro e-bike sharing program at some low-income housing developments. And I was just wondering if there's any way to access the backend API because the e-bikes track the trips themselves per user. So just wondering if there's a way to kind of transfer that data over without also asking our users to take the time out of their day to log into the Get There program and create an account and then double log their trips, even though they kind of already exist somewhere else.
And I'll kind of tag into this in that we at some point had a conversation with Right Amigos about something similar for the bike share bikes. And I can't remember where we landed on it because they said, yes, we can do that. We can, connect the accounts so that if you take a trip on a bike share bike, it would count into yours. But I don't think we actually followed through with that. But it was something that we asked if it was possible on the API side.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, that they'll be essentially logging their e-bike trips in a separate platform?
The trips are automatically logged by I forget the name of it. I may not even be allowed to say the name of it, but since nothing is final yet. But the trips are automatically logged. Everyone has a different user profile. So when they rent an e-bike and they take it to the grocery store and come back, that trip is GPS tracked and saved in
I
this
see.
separate system.
Okay. So it's kind of like the idea of Strava, because Strava is like an integrated app that functions with Right Amigos. I suspect the answer is no, without like paying for a customization. I can definitely ask what that would look like. I have a meeting with them this week, actually. But because whatever they enter, so they have, there's a few others, but there's Strava. I don't think they do Waze anymore, but that was one at one point. And those are offered or integrated system-wide. So I think any integrations they make, they want to be able to offer it to all of their clients as opposed to just get their Oregon. And so I suspect they probably wouldn't add, a small scale offering like that, but I will ask and get back to you.
Okay, sure. Do you want me to drop my email in chat? That way we can connect.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Kim?
Hi, I just wanted to mention that in the trip log report, you can also look at a mode split chart based on time. So for some of my funders, I show them the pie chart of what my mode split is for that month or that year. And it's pretty neat to just be able to click around and figure it out. So little tip.
Yeah, that's great. You said that was in the trip log report, right, Kim?
Right.
Cool. Michelle? Oh,
Must unmute first.
okay.
Having not set up a incentive point or a challenge in the system yet, how do you get the rewards built in and distributed? Is the system going to manage that, or do we have to go in there and check on it, I don't understand all those steps.
Yeah, Kim, do you actually want to speak to that?
Sure, and we can do this separately from this meeting too. So every Friday, I go into my redemptions for the point program. So the individual has earned their 45 points. They click on the button. They're like, I want my Tango card. And so those go into a holding pattern until I get in there on Fridays. And then I can reward or deny each request. So if I see somebody's got one that is sooner than I expected it to be, I can kind of go click around and figure out if they really deserve that trip or if they maybe made a mistake logging. But then my integration is the Tango card, and that's an insider relationship that Right Amigos has with Tango. So we actually pay Right Amigos and they put money in our account. I'm able to draw down out of that account every Friday. Each individual receives an email from Tango, and then they go on their own and choose their reward. So it is pretty low amount of work. Don't tell my boss, but it really has simplified my workflow on Fridays quite a bit.
Okay, to add to that, how do I don't understand how the Tango gets integrated into Get There.
It's one of my management functions. So I have a fulfillment integration button that you don't have because I paid Right Amigos to make it for me. And that's my little wallet, my little account. And I go in there and I'm able to spend money and see what my account balance is. And I can mail them more money and they recharge it. So the magical part of it, that it goes to my participants' email, that's totally on them. They do all that for me. So,
and aside from Tango, because that is a additional expense, there are other ways of doing it, but it's not as easy as Tango. But I just wanted to show Michelle.
Yeah, you can go to that. So click the blue report button.
Yeah, so this is all of the point programs that we have in Get There. I'm now in my admin account, but here's Kim's And so this is what Kim would see, just hers. And when you click report, this is being a little bit slow.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, actually.
Yeah.
4 years worth of thousands of trips. So Adrienne Hoyt, right there on the top, I can select the option over here on the right to reward her or deny her. And then I click the go button, and then Right Amigos takes it from there. So I barely ever hear from any of these people again, unless they didn't receive my note on Friday or something got lost in their spam folder or something like that. And that does not happen very often.
Does that track how many rewards each individual person has? So you could go in and see that Adrienne's had 4 out of her 5
Totally.
possible for
Yeah.
a year. Okay.
In fact, if you go, just slide back down on this screen, Sydney, and then you can type in Adrienne's name right there in search. And you can see actually her whole lifetime. Oh, and this is new. So filter it by all over there on the right. And then you can see she's had 4.
And there's also reports you can pull, right, Kim, from.
Oh yeah, from the other side. Yep.
Yeah, so here.
So many reports, you guys don't even know.
Purchases and users as well. So this will just go directly to an Excel spreadsheet.
And if you have, like Olivia Holden has, a big old file drawer full of gift cards, you can also put them in here and do a inventory that you can keep track of on the tool also.
Yeah.
And that's free. That's free to use.
It seems like maybe a digital inventory training would be useful.
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay. Olivia, do you have another question?
No, I was just gonna add, I don't do the Tango part like Kim yet. I'm hoping to get there. I have the magic lockbox of gift cards. And I haven't gone through and like added them to the digital inventory because the ideal is to phase them into a digital gift card system. So I didn't go through that labor process. And so what I do is I run an incentive program on a monthly basis, and it's kind of ranging upwards. So last month in January, I had to log 8 non-drive alone trips and get there, and then 25 participants get a $25 gift card to a place. And I use the system to be able to run that raffle drawing. And so it's really simple to do that. I don't have to do that on a back end. And then I can just email those participants exactly from the Get There system, and they get an email. I think, hi, Brian. He's on the call. He was one of my winners last month. So that's great. So he like got to go through that process with me as a user. But it still is pretty simple, but I do have the more labor intensive process of physically mailing my gift cards and getting those users to confirm their full name and mailing address, which is a challenge. So I only get really like half of the people that win to get back to me, which is a bummer. Unlike Kim, who people just win.
What is the cost for, sorry, I'm jumping in, folks. What is the cost for the Tango to do that work for us?
I set up a one-time, initiation fee with them of $2,500, and we were sort of had sticker shock over that. And it has saved so much work and loss prevention and so many benefits to it that I would say if you've got that in your budget, I would just spend it and get it done, because they make it really, really easy.
Are there any other ongoing costs through Tango?
No. So I send a $5,000 check and they put $5,000 worth of value into my Tango account. So I don't pay any, per card fee or per transaction or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
It's just that one time sort of setup.
So I'm just reading Cass's chat here, so I'm just going to read it out loud. I also have a lot more questions about the prizes, especially some that we might come up with ourselves, like a gift certificate for a free bike tune-up at a local shop. So I just wanted to, I agree that this is all kind of the same topic, but I guess just a sneak preview of what that would include is, so I just went in to create, this is a new incentive. So, and this is similar for the point program as well, but all the way at the bottom, there's a redemption section. And you can have like a custom language or link. So if you created a PDF of that voucher or something, then you could actually include that here and still require submission. Oh, that's separate, but you could still set it up to where you are rewarding it. But that's a nice way to just get once they've met whatever goal you've set, they can just have access to that PDF. And so it can be in any digital form. And then you could even, I think I mentioned this before, but have an automatic email sent that includes like a promo code or something like that. So there are definitely options for non digital gift card options. So yeah, I think that would be a really good training topic.
Yeah, I use that to just like send automated emails to everyone. I think it would be better if Get There or Right Amigos could have like individual, like use like one email to one user, so that it could be like a unique promo code, for example, for each participant, because usually it's not like the same. In some cases, it's not like the same gift card code to enter digitally,
Yeah, and
if that makes sense.
Are you talking, so a digital code though?
Well, if I was just to email a digital gift card, like those codes are individually different.
Okay, yeah.
And
so
so
I
it
think
wouldn't be, it's not like entering a Lyft code, I guess. That would be different.
Yeah, I think that is possible just through the more complicated digital inventory process. Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
well, we are at 2:59. So I'm going to, I think most of you have my email, but you can email me here, or of course at info@gettthereoregon.org. If you have any follow-up questions, I did record this and I'll send it out to the same list that was invited to this. And then we'll be in touch with some future training topics.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sydney.
Thank you, Sydney.
Nice to see you all.
Thank you.